Smartwatches aren't anything new. They've been around for almost a decade in the form that we know now, and the main innovations, at least for the most part anyway, have been on their battery life and on their price tag. It wasn't all that long ago that a fairly basic smartwatch like the old Pebble cost a couple $100s or pounds, and so when I heard that you can pick up a supposedly fully featured smartwatch for under £50, I just had to check it out. Now this is the Tinwoo Quartz and we're going to take a look at it in this video and see if it's actually worth any money at all. But first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Now I've checked out cheap smartwatches before. The TicWatch S stands out to me as one of the best value smartwatches around. It was about £100 and more importantly, it was a full Android Wear watch, which means you get proper integration with apps, notifications, media controls, you can have Google Maps on your watch and a whole lot else, and so it was a very nice watch, also coupled with a couple of days of battery life and fairly nice build quality for the price. It made me highly recommend it as a very good option. So when I heard that you can pay less than half the price for this one, well, it made me a little skeptical. Now, does your £40 to £45 get you any of the features you would expect? Well, let's start with the operating system. As you might expect for this price point, it is not an Android Wear watch. It looks like a fairly bare bones OS that has been custom written for this level of fairly low-end hardware. A great example of this is if you swipe from left to right on the main clock screen, home screen, you will get what you could over-enthusiastically call an app drawer. Inside the app drawer, there are only four, let's say, applications, one of which is the settings. Now that settings app only actually has 3 settings in it. The top one is to change the watch face, the middle one is to change the watch face's brightness, and then the third one is to change how long the watch face stays on after you've stopped touching it. So one of the other apps in there is the fitness tracker. Now you do actually have fairly standard fitness tracking on the home screen. If you swipe from left to right, you'll see the 3 counters of, I think it's steps, distance traveled, and estimated calories burned. But if you go to the app in the app drawer, then you're able to tell it what activity you're doing, and it will more closely monitor things like your heart rate and steps, that kind of thing, to see how well you're doing. Now I mentioned heart rate monitoring, and yes, in theory this thing has it. It does have a sensor on the back that shines green light onto your skin, and you can go to the leftmost page of the sort of home screen and you can see live readouts there. Now with that said, I can't verify the accuracy of this all that much, as even just manually checking my pulse and counting to 6 and multiplying it gives me often wildly different numbers to what this thing reports. It generally seems to report only between about 68 and 78 beats per minute, and otherwise it tends to just stay in that range despite my heart rate being higher or lower. Now, one of the other features that you could reasonably expect to be missing on this level of watch is getting notifications from your phone. Much to my surprise, this watch got more notifications more consistently than pretty much any smartwatch I've reviewed in the past. I don't know why. Maybe that's because the app that you use to connect the watch to your phone is fairly basic and only has a few functions, but it seems to do them well. Or maybe it's just because the watch doesn't do much and so it gets them well, but either way, you do get almost every notification. Now I should note that just because you get every notification doesn't mean that they're necessarily useful. A lot of the time when you see the notifications, they can often be either just what name of the person or group chat you had a message from, but not the message's contents, although it does show contents sometimes. Also, sometimes, so I use an app called Good Vibrations to accentuate the vibrations from my phone for certain applications. And when I get a messenger notification on my phone, it comes up with Good Vibrations Messenger, not the actual message itself. And sometimes it just tells you the name of the application or website or whatever that you got a notification from, and nothing else too. I should also mention that you can't do anything with those notifications. Even if you do get the contents, there's no way to reply either by bringing it up on the phone or replying directly on the watch. It's all just a, hey, you've got this thing, now you can look at your phone and do it. In fact, the only way that you can control anything on your phone from the watch is with media controls, which, yes, surprisingly, it does have media controls, although they're not fantastic. Now, they are somewhat reliable in that play, pause, skip forward and backwards, and volume up and down do tend to work most of the time, but it doesn't tell you the track or artist that's playing in the media controls sort of window. It actually tells you as a notification in the notifications tray, and it will buzz to say you're playing another song. I should also note that it buzzes on every single notification, just even if your phone doesn't normally buzz for, say, things like emails, it will still buzz for anything it gets, which I don't think you can turn that off, so not brilliant, but either way, the fact that it has media controls at all is quite impressive. So it has bare bones versions of most of the features you would expect, but what about the rest of the smartwatch experience, the battery life, charging, comfort, that kind of stuff? Well, let's start with the battery. It's an absolutely tiny 210 mAh unit, and Tinwoo on their website claim that it has a working time of 13 plus days. I'm not quite sure what they're measuring there, as they do also quote standby time of 14 days, because the battery life that I got out of this was about a day to 2 at most. Now, I did have the brightness on full with the screen off time at 3 seconds, so if you were to, say, drop the brightness down a bit, you can probably get 2 days out of it, although honestly, for this price of smartwatch and the ease of charging with a USB cable with sort of magnetic attachment to the watch, which means that it's IP68 rated, by the way, is pretty easy. When it comes to comfort, I have the metal band version, the slightly more premium option, and much to my surprise and my initial pinching of hairs out of my arm, it actually ends up being pretty comfortable. It uses a magnet to close the latch and hold it still, which actually ended up being a little bit easier to deal with than a more standard watch, as you're able to do basically millimeter adjustments to the sort of tightness of the watch around your wrist. And so if you're a little bit hot and a little bit sort of swollen, then you can make it a little bit looser, or you can tighten it up if you're a bit more chilly. So is this insanely cheap smartwatch worth it? Well, honestly, if this is just your first smartwatch, you want something that is fairly basic but still has a reasonable amount of features, especially for its price, or maybe you're buying a Christmas or birthday present for a younger relative, for example, this could be a great shout. Now, of course, I would still personally go with something like the TicWatch Pro myself, mostly because of the feature support, better notifications, and the ability to reply to notifications as well is quite handy. But again, for this price, I really can't argue that much. But with that said, those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think of this insanely cheap watch? Is this something you'd pick up, or would you go with a more established, slightly more premium brand, or would you go all in on like Apple smartwatch, or would you just use a standard watch yourself, or not at all? Anything and all, let me know in those comments down below. Now, if you want to check out the Tinwoo Quartz, I'm going to leave a link to their website in the description down below. They do have a little selector box in the bottom left hand corner that can change your currency and see pricing where you are, but otherwise that is pretty much it. Now, like I said at the start, if you want to see more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, do hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. You can also check out the rest of the links in the description down below to support the channel in more ways than just watching these videos and subscribing. There's stuff like merch, hoodies, or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs, including more subtle ones as well. And there's also a lot of stuff like Streamlabs OBS if you want to start streaming, Humble Bundle for cheap games to support charities, and a couple of VPN options down there too. I would also recommend you check out the rest of the smartwatch playlist and see the rest of the smartwatches I reviewed, including the TicWatch S if you're in this kind of budget range. And otherwise, that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments down below, but we'll see you all in the next video.